The following is a special presentation of iRacing on LSRTV, your home for sim racing.
They call this place the place too tough to tame. And tonight, LSRTV has your coverage from Darlington Raceway of the SESRA series for the Blue Cord Apparel 200 here in beautiful Darlington, South Carolina. Good evening, I'm Justin Prince. Alongside of the hoop tonight is Rachel Whiteford, along with Gary Weaver for what should be a very wild and very fun 147 laps and 201 total miles. It's going to be a heck of a race tonight. Lots of throwback schemes to see and lots of great racing all across the track. Rachel, it's going to be an interesting race to see how drivers handled the place they call too tough to tame and try and avoid the Darlington stripe.
Absolutely, Justin, and tonight is going to be a big one for these guys. They've had their first real race outside of Daytona last week at Charlotte. Mile and a half? Well, this is a whole different beast to tame, and this one will chew some people up.
It absolutely will. It has chewed some people out throughout the practices for today as well. Gary, a lot going on top of that as well. Throwback race weekend today. Multiple drivers with throwback paint schemes rather for tonight's event. So a lot of different drivers taking different looks for the action tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking through some of these paint schemes right now, and they look absolutely amazing. Some of them I kind of recognize, especially 21, going over back to the Motorcraft days. So, going to be very looking forward. Definitely going to be looking forward to seeing all these paint schemes here on the racetrack tonight.
Drivers currently completing their qualifying at the moment. In terms of the throwback schemes, there will be an online vote taking place this week for the best paint scheme, with the winner getting a free car or track courtesy of LSRTV. So stay tuned and be sure to vote for your favorite paint scheme by the end of the night. But a lot to watch for today in terms of the strategy. 147 total laps as mentioned. 90 degrees is the average track temperature today, gone to as low as 88 degrees throughout the qualifying at the moment, with a total of 3 tire sets available. That opens up the door, Rachel, for pit stops around laps 35 to 38. If we stay green is the question.
Staying green here? That's not going to happen tonight. We are going to have cautions. That is to be expected. But more importantly is how big those cautions end up being. We talked about it in the pre-show that a lot of this track is self-cleaning. People end up on the bottom. We don't always get a caution. But when they do happen, they're big. Typically off 2, but they also happen out of 4 as well.
Absolutely. There's a lot of possibilities of incidents in a very difficult track as well, Gary, to try and just hit your marks right that we'll see all night long.
Oh yeah, definitely. From personal experience, this is definitely going to be very. This track just keeps you on your toes, basically. I mean, we've seen it many times throughout the years in NASCAR, and of course through pretty much any series that has been here. That right side wall, the outside wall, is going to be the wall to watch, especially coming off of turn number 2 and turn number 4. Both of those, you're going to have to be very careful and keep those tires intact as much as possible to avoid giving the infamous black stripe across the right-hand side of your vehicle.
For sure, a lot to watch for, but real quickly, Blue Cord Apparel, of course, the official sponsor for tonight's race, the Blue Cord Apparel 200. Blue Cord Apparel is a veteran-owned and operated online apparel store with tons of authentic hats and shirts to choose from for any patriot that can find the right fit. Use the promo code THROWBACK18 for 20% off your next order. But with that, it's time to look towards tonight's starting grid. As the times are in, the drivers are all set to go for tonight's 147-lap race. Spencer Preet is on the pole for today's race, the only driver in the 28 Flat Club for tonight, alongside Jeff Ward, with Mark Arthur and Michael Cozy Jr. in the second row. They look to try and take advantage of the higher line if you're in Ps 2 and 4. In the fifth spot for tonight will be Travis Brown. Rachel?
Certainly will be Travis Brown behind him. Kyle Vincent Gilbert in the 6th place with Tyler Pincino in 7th place. Sean Wilder in the 8th spot with Mike Montesi in 9th and Derek Paulson in 10th.
And then 11th through 15th, we have the 38 of Hunter King, Brian McRae to his outside. And the 35 starts in that position at number 12. 13th place shows Steve Rittler in the number 16. 14th is the number 8 machine of Taylor Butcher Benjamin. And then 15th place is the 13 of Michael Ridgway.
Jay Graves Jr. starts in the 16th spot today in the Kellogg's throwback machine with Stephen Parks and Jason Taylor starting off in 17th and 18th. Rounding up the top 20 tonight will be John Johnson and Jason Anderson. And of course,
after
the
Jason Anderson, sorry, we have Mark Goen. We have Douglas R. Johnson in 22nd, Corey Stevens 23rd, Wally Wilson 24th place, Zachary Sprung in 25th, and Kevin Dye in 26th. The last 3 cars not setting qualifying times. Probably a wise decision here.
And it's going to be interesting to see how these 26 drivers go through today's race and how our producer tonight, Brett Wheeler, handles tonight's action across the racetrack. As they continue to prepare for the starting grid for today, we talked about some of the things to look for. Different amounts of paint schemes, of course, on the track as we discussed a little bit to keep up with tonight's action. Some of the throwbacks tonight include a 1987 Davey Allison throwback for that number 35 machine. That is in Brian McRae. But currently coming into tonight, look at some of the paint schemes involving, say, the number 91. That is the Bill Elliott 2004 Budweiser Shootout throwback. He is at the top of the point standings with 38 points per race so far on the season, with Kyle Gilbert and Derek Paulson just 5 points back apiece.
Yeah, absolutely. And those positions are going to be really important going forwards. But this early in the season, this is not going to be a case of, oh, I have to be very careful about my points. People want as much as they can get right now. And that is going to be a very big factor for these guys.
It absolutely will be at this point. But if you're a driver right now that is, say, one of those drivers that are, say, in the middle of the pack for today and needing some good points, what's going through your mind as you're approaching the start and finish line and working your way down the backstretch?
Survive.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep, Rachel, I think, said the perfect word, survive. Who will survive for this 200-mile race here at the beautiful Darlington Raceway? The pace car's off the track. Preet in the 00 on the bottom is the control car. On the outside, the number 9 in the Mark Martin throwback is Jeff Ward. As they wait for the green flag at the stand, green flags waving. We're underway here on LSRTV for the SESRA Series for the Blue Court Apparel 200. And
it's looking good so far, but the slack is just taking up right now in the field as people try and find room. Coming off turn 2 is not a too wide situation. Everyone trying to single file out there is the important position to get into.
And everyone really single file at the start of the race. The top 5 starting to pull away and gain a little bit of space here for tonight's action. Currently a great launch though from Preet. He is already up to about a 6-car length lead just about after the first lap, Gary.
That's a great job by that 00 to quickly get that speed and show that momentum up from that 00 machine. And then there's pretty much, looks to be 2nd through 6th, all up in the blanket right now for the time being. But right now, everyone definitely taking their time while they run at single file.
They definitely are. There is some drivers that start towards the back. Stephen Parks, rather, was one of the drivers who he just ended up plowing into the wall meanwhile and got the first Darlington stripe of the night. And in the number 4 Ernie Irvin throwback from the 1990s. But either way, most of the racing clean so far as everyone tries to get some breathing room across the racetrack, Rachel.
And that's the important part here, is breathing room, getting room on track to have a few mistakes, maybe slow down a bit more if you need to for some of these corners. 3 and 4 is probably the worst corner on this track. You've got to come in so early, get off the gas, and just let the car ride through till it wants to settle down, and it's not a great feeling. The problem is 1 and 2 is a very, very easy corner. People really want it, as we're looking at the 7, I believe, at the moment. Mike Montesi there. Oh, the 227, sorry, Kyle Vincent Gilbert. He's been strong. He was very strong at Charlotte until he had an incident, of course. Got some damage. It cost him a lot there. But this teardrop racetrack, well, there'll definitely be tears tonight.
There absolutely will, and it's going to be interesting to see how that 227 tries to get a pass done. He's up into the top 5 after starting off on the outside at 6, getting by Travis Brown. The question will be, how will he time up the passes here? Because, Gary, it's very difficult to try and line up a pass really at this racetrack.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty difficult. It's just that you see the main line around this racetrack is a very long diamond throughout the corner. Low entry, move up high throughout the corner. And we'll see that as we continue to watch the 227, the low entry, and then you migrate up to the top side and the turns 1 and 2, at least for the time being, and then back down low off the corner, avoiding that outside wall, thankfully. So that 227 could be having an opening. He had the momentum, but he decided to hold off for the time being. Definitely being very wise about decision-making early on in this race as they drift up very close to the outside wall, and that's going to be something to watch out for later on in the night.
Currently on lap 7 of 147 for tonight's action here on LSRTV for the SESRA Series for the Blue Cord Apparel 200 here at Darlington Raceway. As you can continue to see Gilbert try and find something together as the top 3 have just started to really check out from the rest of the battles with a pretty consistent pace. 0.3 of a second difference between the drivers in the top 3 and that group from 4th, 5th, and 6th as the caution flag has come out for an incident with Wally Wilson, the 101 machine on the backstretch.
Yeah, take a look at what happened. We're going to replay up for you now as a single car incident got wide out of 2, slapped the wall, came in, bounced off the inside wall, and it ricocheted him up onto the racetrack, onto that racing line, just in time to be in front of a car. Nobody else involved, but we'll see a lot of that tonight. It's rare they come bouncing back up into the racing lane, but his motor's done for tonight.
It absolutely is starting to smoke. That's going to be at least a fair amount of damage for that Mark Martin throwback. Of course, throwing back to the now currently called NASCAR Xfinity Series ride. As that's the first caution of the race as we continue to look at the drivers now trying to catch up to the pace car. Currently Spencer Preet, Jeff Ward, Michael Cozy, Mark Arthur, and Kyle Vincent Gilbert are your top 5. But of course, very early in this race with just those 3 tire sets to even think of a pit strategy, I think, Gary.
Oh man, that's the thing. I mean, it's only about 10 laps in, but would you really want to waste one of your tire sets this early on is the question. I personally would not. I'd just say ride it out, and it looks like a majority of these drivers are definitely keeping that in mind as they stay out of the pit lane as it opens this time by.
Not a single driver willing to sacrifice one of their sets so early on in this race, coming to just lap number 10 for tonight's action for the Blue Cord Apparel 200. But of course, that gives us a chance really to look at a couple of these nice paint schemes across the track against, again, lots of throwbacks. Jeff Ward, one of those 2 drivers that have the Mark Martin throwbacks. Michael Cozy Jr. in one of the Allison throwbacks in the number 99 machine. Just a great chance for drivers to try and show their creativity throughout the various teams here, Rachel.
Oh, absolutely. It's great to see these guys bringing out some of the retro action on these cars and seeing some of the really cool designs we've had in the years past of NASCAR and whatever the series has been in. It's really cool to see those things coming up on race cars and see what they can do. 4 and 51 are headed to pit road. Those guys are getting looked at. Stephen Parks, he had an end-of-line penalty, so he might as well. As the 51 as well we talked about coming down. He is Jason Tyler, sorry. One thing I did want to really bring up at this point is fuel. That is not a limiting factor here. You can go about 90 laps on fuel at this place, so never will be an issue. But you never really want to top up early because a heavy car with old tires will slide like crazy here. It will be a nasty car to drive, and you'll see them running these things very light. The pit stops will be quick. They'll just come with tires, no fuel at all, until about that halfway point. But it's going to be tricky because the more restarts we get, the more these tires get off the cooling cycle. They end up off that kind of nice tacky thing. They cool down, they get hard, and they don't properly get heated up again if we get some quick restarts. So you'll start to see progressively more and more sliding on restarts, bunching into 1 and 2, and the more chance for crashes on restarts out of 2.
And on top of that, again, the risk of wheel spin too on top of that can cause a lot of the incidents. if you're some of these drivers now having the first restart on old tires, Gary, factor in what Rachel added there to think about how are you going to try and approach this to make sure you're not one of the drivers, say, spinning around sideways and getting collected into an incident.
Well, the main key thing is, Justin, is that you just have to be very careful in the restarts. Normally, you would obviously start in, of course, second gear. Never start in first gear, is because, of course, the rev limiter is a bit too high in that gear for this racetrack. You could try it, but that ultimately is just going to give you a little bit less grip. So if you slam down on the throttle, which is another thing, you have to ease into the throttle in second gear. If you slam onto the throttle right away to try to get a good start, all you're going to do is lose traction, spin those tires, and that's pretty much the main way that that's the only thing that's going to really cost you from getting a good restart. But the thing is, you have to make sure you're in second gear, because the only other time, if you don't wheel spin, well, you're just in the wrong gear.
Absolutely right now. Meanwhile, we're at 1 to go for the restart. Spencer Preet has chosen the bottom side for the restart. He had a dominant start to this race, able to pull away by a fair bit, about double-digit car lengths distance up at the front. On the outside, Jeff Ward with Michael Cozy and Mark Arthur in the second row. Rounding out the top 5 will be Kyle Vincent Gilbert in the throwback Terry Labonte throwback from the 1980s, with Travis Brown rounding out the top 3 rows. Once again, we'll have to see how this goes. They have to wait until the green flag as the pace car rolls its way through turns 3 and 4. How will this restart go as we approach lap 13 of 147 here at Darlington for the Blue Court Apparel 200? Spencer Preet is up and away as the green flag waves. We're back on our way here on LSRTV.
Big separation here on the restart. That's what we mentioned there. People being gentle. Everyone's single files into one. My favourite corner here at Darlington is 1 and 2. It's basically just a tuck of the throttle in through the apex of 1, backing the gas hard around the top of the track, and then diving it into 2. Really fun sequence of corners there. 3 and 4. Off the gas a lot. All the way through as a stripe there for 5th place. Bunches up a couple of cars. Think that was just ahead of Carl Vincent Gilbert. That was the number 227 there. Sorry, that was Kyle Vincent Gilbert, unfortunately, back in defense again for the second race in a row.
Yeah, Kyle Vincent Gilbert had a heck of a slide and ended up getting his first Darlington stripe on the right front, or right above the wheel well, but able to just save it to try and avoid significant contact as that bunches him up with Mark Arthur now behind him in one of the Outback Steakhouse throwbacks. That is throwback to one of Jeff Gordon's previous schemes.
It's absolutely amazing to see all these paint schemes and all these drivers trying to at least stay single file as much as possible, avoid hitting each other, and that was great avoidance and awareness by everybody else to make sure to not take out Kyle Vincent Gilbert in the process, or themselves as well. So very, very heads-up drivers, as this race is still working in its early stages, so they definitely want to keep a clean car for the rest of this race.
And bobbing around again, Gilbert dancing around to the exit of turn 4. That opens up the door for Mark Arthur. He's just going to let him go on by and give up the spot in the top 5, with it being so early on in the race. Thinking maybe the long game and not wanting to fight too hard here, Rachel.
Absolutely not, and this is not a stage of the race to try and win in. Let the pack thin itself out first. Trust me, we'll get a couple of big car wrecks. That'll help thin this field down and get rid of some problems, but for the moment, it's going to be a case of survive until we get our first stop sequence, get some fresh tyres. You've assessed the competition, how they're running here at Darlington today, and we'll get that done. Spencer Preet running clear again. He's got about 6 car lengths there over Cozy Jr. Jeff Ward in 3rd, running really well. Mark Arthur doing decently back in 4th place with Vincent Gilbert, still doing fairly well in 5th place, even after that slap. Darlington, yeah, the tyres matter so much more than the aero. It's not a huge straight we've got here, but can play a factor late in the game as he tags the wall again. That car is getting tighter and tighter for him as underneath him goes Travis Brown.
And also joining in is Derek Paulson, who is in that battle in the top 3 in the points in the early going of this season. That moves Gilbert all the way back to 7th. And we talked a bit about tire management. It looks like with Gilbert, he is sliding back and sliding back fast as behind him, Steve Ritter hit the wall on the outside. That bottles them up into turn 3 as Sean Wilder now has some damage on the front end because of that.
Man, Sean Wilder has more than likely not going to be happy with himself for that move, unfortunately. Here comes number 1 of Tyler to the inside, trying to take advantage of that situation as much as possible on the apron, slides up almost into the 91. That's another thing to look out for, is that you're going to have to be very careful about your entry line, is that banking change between 2 different sides of your car can definitely loosen up that car very, very quickly.
It definitely will. In terms of the line management, as we continue to look at some of these battles forming up in terms, right now, Ritter, one of the drivers in one of the Alan Kowicki throwback schemes for tonight, that number 16, having a little bit of maybe a slight tap from Wilder after that contact down the backstretch about a lap or 2 ago now, which has really bottled them up for that 9th spot, as Tyler Pisano will move to the bottom side. He'll go on by and move himself up into the top 10.
Yeah, nicely done for him, and that puts him in a good spot for later on in this thing, as we're kind of rounding 5th place backwards now. That being Travis Brown. These guys are getting a little bit squirrely, running very close together. They're pushing pretty hard by the looks of things, as Pisano moving up to 10th place there. We mentioned him. He's in a pretty good pack of cars right now with the 91 behind him. Sean Wilder, got Brian McRae back there as well, so those will be ones to look at, but we've got 2 wide into 3 up ahead there as they've single filed out again. Oh, one car. Travis Brown has a bit more contact in the corner.
And that was right after making it 2 wide into the entrance to make the pass, and a great exit out of turn 4 despite the contact, able to get himself away from the traffic into the 4th spot. And he showed some speed in practice. He was the 6th fastest in practice, and his strongest point was turn number 2, Gary.
Yeah, that was definitely a very great opportunity by that 01. Definitely not wanting to be held up by anybody for the time being, as the top 3 is once again broken away for the time being. But looking back at the little bit of a pack that we have behind, the 5 of Derek Paulson looks to the inside for position number 5. 12 of Mark Arthur slams the door, essentially. I think the 5 actually decided to let him take that, though. Kyle Vincent Gilbert got held up a little bit in that 227, but now here comes a 7 to Mike Montez at 12, hits the wall off of turn number 2.
And that Jeff Gordon Xfinity throwback taps the wall. Now to the inside goes Gilbert, and the 227 has to back up out of the gas and goes back to single file and maybe try and regroup. But that opens up the door for Mike Mondesi behind him in the Tim Richmond Folgers throwback, as the Folgers car goes side by side into turn 1. These drivers are trying to take advantage of any hole possible as the number 7 tucks back into line.
Yeah, they certainly do, and just going to throw phrasing in there as a thing. Are we still doing phrasing? Yeah, we are. Okay, so taking a look at Travis Brown right now, running there with Paulson behind him, MacArthur just behind that group there, Vincent Gilbert and Montesi in a threesome there. Once again, phrasing. It's just behind them, we've got Tyler Pisano making a move here on the 16 car of Ritter. He's definitely got something in that machine. It's just behind them.
The
entry.
Trouble, 01. That is Travis Brown, who looks like he got loose into turns 1 and 2. That bunches up the field out. Derek Paulson got by. Now Kyle Gilbert goes to the inside, makes it side by side, working their way to 3. Mark Arthur forced to the high side with Montesi now trying to get by on the bottom side. Gilbert backs off, getting loose on the exit of turn 4 as drivers continuing to make mistakes, and that is starting to really build up this field as Gilbert cycles all the way back with all of that to 8th.
Great save and great awareness, but oh my goodness, Mike Montesi all over that back bumper, the number 12 MacArthur, as he moves to the inside for position number 7, I believe. But nonetheless, though, still side by side, that 7 of Montesi unfortunately cannot get that position for the time being. That's actually for P6 as well.
Arthur able to defend for P6 for now. Remember, he does have that damage on the right front, which you gotta think, Rachel, that could affect him if he continues to add to that said damage for how the car handles and how the car handles in terms of speed in general across the racetrack as the day goes on.
Yeah, it'll definitely affect him later on, but you can get repairs done at Darlington and still win. It's one of those racetracks.
Exactly there. As meanwhile, Brown gets the spot right in front of them back on Derek Paulson. That moves him back into the 4th spot as Paulson recovers back from that mistake. They continue to stay bunched up in that 3-car pack behind them, with Mark Arthur now starting to hold them up as they work their way through a bit of smoke from an incident. Looks like from one of the drivers now pulling into the pits in Stephen Parks.
No, that was actually 21 of Zachary Sprung. He took a virtual toe back, so unfortunately his day is pretty much done. Caution did not come out because it was so far off of the racing surface, but the 7 and 227, they banged doors twice on the front straightaway. There goes a 12 around. And they save it.
Arthur able to keep it straight, but that car is very much damaged and loses him at least 4 spots. Here comes Sean Wilder along with Steve Ritter, who will now go along by, but a heck of a save, but a heck of amount of a contact for all the drivers involved there. And it looks like somebody just also got into another incident at this about the same time. This is Matt Ridgway, who just wrecked in the number 13 machine.
It's getting busy right now. We're on lap 30, so we're at the end of the tire life, and these things are really slippery right now. They're going to be super tight in 3 and 4. They're going to be super loose out in 2. 12 round 2.
Ritter ends up making contact with the back of Arthur. He smacks into the wall. Caution flag is out for the second time today for the Blue Court Apparel 200. We're looking at a replay of the incident, but man, oh man, it got busy, and that, I think, is a much-needed caution with how busy it was getting.
Definitely, Justin, but of course, man, the 16 had so much momentum and a little bit less damage, but there's just that small bit of a line change and then the small hook, and unfortunately both drivers did hit the wall, and the 16 also took a hard shot to the inside, but the person that's more than likely also on the bad receiving end of this is the number 12, but the 16, I think, has completely destroyed his engine from that impact. Not sure, no, he kept rolling.
Yeah, a lot of damaged cars as we now have the pit cycle open up for the first time. Drivers taking advantage of fresh tires. One driver does not pit. Michael Cozy Jr. has stayed out as the rest of the field goes down the pit lane, guys.
Interesting call. I'm not entirely sure why Cozy's doing that, but more laps led. I don't know. Clean restart. If you can stay out front to control the field, there's a good chance you'll be okay here. But 30 laps on the tires, man, I don't know. This is feeling like an interesting call. We had some weird ones last week at Charlotte, but Cozy Jr. maybe thinks there will be a caution fairly soon, especially with loads of guys on new tires, so yeah, he might get a good shot to get another pit stop.
And someone just overshot the pits. Once again, that's the 227 Gilbert who just overshot a bit of the pits. Loses him even more spots on the racetrack as Spencer Preet gets out first. Jeff Ward second. Travis Brown third with Hunter A. Kane and Derek Paulson fourth and fifth in the line of drivers who get out of the pits. So the question, now we'll have to see if the rest of the drivers end up going in, because a couple of the drivers who did stay out had damage. The drivers that are staying out 100%, Cozy and Mark Goins, so the front row not pitting.
That is definitely a very interesting call. I wonder what the decision is behind that, how much fuel they have. Maybe they're just hoping for another caution and they could capitalize on that eventually. So that's, again, that's just a very interesting call. I'm not sure why, but that's, well, that's 2 slower cars on old tires that are within the front of both rows. So this is going to be interesting. This is also going to play into effect with old tires versus new tires as well in this restart.
Yeah, very interesting call for this race. That moves Spencer Preet to the 3rd spot on the track. Extensive repairs for Mark Arthur, who is now falling a lap down on the racetrack because of the incident that we've seen that triggered the caution flag on the racetrack. Once again, today's race, the Blue Court Apparel 200 is presented by Blue Court Apparel. Blue Court Apparel is a veteran-owned and operated online apparel store with tons of authentic hats and shirts to choose from any patriot who can find the right fit. Use the promo code THROWBACK18 for 20% off your next order. Also, today's race is with today's coverage of the SESRA series is brought to you by Joel Real Timing, the official timing software of LSRTV. Whether you can spend your time on the sim behind the wheel, on the pit box, or from the spotter stand, JRT is the go-to software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. Get yourself a basic download for free, or get the pro version today at joel-real-timing.com. With that, it's going to be interesting strategy and an interesting restart coming up here. 1 to go on the pace car, the top 2 on 30-plus old lap tires, the rest of the field on fresh tires. What are you thinking if you are currently the drivers up at the front?
I'm thinking this is about to be hilarious because everyone's going to bunch up behind us with nowhere to go. We've got both lanes locked down. It's going to be carnage, and we've gained a bunch of spots, so we're happy, especially if you Mark Goen, who's qualified 21st. Yeah, the wreck's going to happen behind him for sure, but it's not going to be pretty.
And right now on board for Spencer Preight right now. He is in the 3rd spot for the restart. He, before the caution in the pit cycle, had led every single lap. Has to be thinking of a lot of different things as they approach the restart zone through turns 3 and 4. Pace cars off the track. Michael Cozy Jr. in the Bobby Allison throwback on the inside. The number 77 in the K-Mark win throwback does not go on the outside as the green flag is out. The top 3 pull away as the outside does not go.
At 77, unfortunately, those old tires quickly playing into effect, but he will definitely be falling back very, very quickly as much as he can. But right now, to the inside, it's going to be Spencer Preight. Looks to the inside all over his back bumper. It's going to be the 0-1 of Travis Brown. Goes back to the top side, then follows through. As right now, that number 99 of Cozy falls back to 3rd, and who knows how many positions for the time being.
Cozy falls back to 3rd. Remember, limit is 3 tires, sets of tires rather, for the entire race. And they are the only drivers, the number 99 rather, and the number 77, who did not take advantage of that to fall to just 2 sets of tires remaining, as Cozy's just letting everyone on by, as there's a huge bunch up around the 77. They are 4 wide down the backstretch, as they just avoided running over the back of Going.
Yeah, this is what's going to cause a crash. Old tires and staying out. It's a really bad decision. That 77 car is going backwards in a hurry. And I think he was hoping to maybe take some people with him, but hasn't worked out so far.
And you got to think what the strategy is here. Maybe they're hoping that, we talked about this a little bit, that there's an hour quick caution to then get a bit off cycle for the rest of the lane, maybe? Gary?
Probably that could be their hope. So far, the only person that's actually benefited from this is the 99 of Cozy. I mean, aside from right now being tailgated from the 227 back in turns 3 and 4. So Cozy's been cleanly falling back, so he's fine for the time being. So more than likely he's hoping for that caution to go off cycle and maybe pull an advantage over on the field in some way, as the 227 still tries to get by, but that damage is holding him up along with that banking change off the exit of turn number 2.
Oh, gentlemen, I have information just coming to me. It is 3 sets of tires for the whole race, including the set they started on. So we're looking at 50 and 100 for tire changes as the 77 smacks that outside wall there. So not the worst decision by Goen and Cozy Jr., but it's definitely off sequence, and off sequence is exactly where they find themselves.
And that is a very key thing to pick up on. Thank you very much, of course, for the information there, as we were discussing a little bit about the tires. So 2 sets overall in terms that you can add to the car. Again, changes a lot of the things to go through a lot of the minds of these drivers. Cozy, in that case, that definitely 100% makes sense at this point to try and maybe save that set for maybe the next caution if there's another incident, because they started getting really squirrely by lap 20.
Yeah, that was, now I can see why Cozy Jr. stayed out. It definitely makes a lot more sense now that we've had that information. So, thanks to whoever provided that, and of course Rachel for giving it through to us. But look at this, the entire field is essentially completely spread out.
That's in part trying to dodge some of the cars, and in part some lap traffic. That number 77's all the way back to 14th. Michael Cozy, meanwhile, he's starting to drop back still, but he was one of the fastest cars on the racetrack prior to that last caution, was running in the top 5, now in the 7th spot with Brian McRae in the Davey Allison 1987 throwback, moving to the inside to take away said spot, with Jay Graves in the Terry Labonte Kellogg's throwback from Hendrick Motorsports closing on in. So a long ways to go in this one. Lap 42 of 147. Just about 105 to go.
Yeah, we're definitely closing in on an interesting part of the race here. So 5 laps time. It's time to come and get those tires if you've already got a set spare. So it gives you an extra advantage if you have waited. You are going to lose stuff now, but with how the field will thin out later on, it might well be an inspired choice, but you've got to apply in the right place, and you can go down lap here very easily.
And one of the drivers that was up near the front of points for the race, Tyler Pizzano. Update on the number 1, Terry Labonte's throwback, having technical issues. He is now off the racetrack and fallen at least 7 laps down. He had been a driver running at the fringe of the top 10. Bad luck for him in that Terry Labonte Skulls throwback as this action continues to cycle across the racetrack and speed on quickly. As this has been going on, Travis Brown is slowly closing in on Spencer Preet. They are right now separated by about half a tenth in terms of lap time per lap, but it's just closing in under an 0.8 of a second gap in total, guys.
Yeah, that gap is quickly closing as much as that number 01 can close it. And well, last time around, about almost the entire 10th faster. No, scratch that. 1,000th of a second faster is Travis Brown. So trying to catch up, trying to find a different line, getting that speed is definitely key for that 01 right now. As well, they're running essentially equal lap times for the time being, but that thing is, the 01 is trying and just that small bit faster as of right now. The question is, can he catch up?
Yeah, that's going to be the major question because Travis Brown, this time by in terms of lap time, again, just about even. 29.506 for Spencer Preet, 29.508 for Travis Brown. So they're running near the exact same pace. Similar case starting to form up with Derek Paulson running that same group, but the fastest driver on the racetrack right now, starting to get into the 29.4s, Jeff Ward. Driver in that Mark Martin throwback, starting to close in on Derek Paulson, in the Sitco throwback from the 1990s. And also a very talented driver in his own right, trying to get himself in the top 3.
Yeah, certainly is. And well, the top 3 is kind of spread out because Preet is logged out of this one. He is off in the distance. Brown, he's holding ground very, very well here. The 01 car up in second place there. Paulson being hunted now by Jeff Ward just behind him there in that 9 car. Wilder, though, also equidistant to those boys. He's closing in as well. Vincent Gilbert, after his contacts, his car's looking okay. He got a bit of damage repaired in that pit cycle. That's going to help him a lot. Like I said, damage here is almost expected on the outside there. Everyone gets some at some point, but his car's looking a little bit worse for wear.
And here's one of the first times we're going to discuss this tonight. Lap traffic as Wally Wilson moves to the bottom side and lets by the leaders. This is going to get to where lap traffic management is going to be so key at times for tonight. If
Wall for 227 again. Sorry about that, but Wall again for Calvin to Gilbert. Looks like it's his favorite place tonight.
Yeah, he's been really hitting the walls a lot. He's got a lot of front end damage too from that major jumbled up contact from turn 1 from right before the first caution around lap 25. You gotta wonder if the engine temps are starting, maybe start to become a bit of a factor if you are Kyle Vincent Gilbert in that Terry Labonte throwback.
Yeah, I'd be a little bit worried in keeping an eye on the gauge just once in a while, but the thing that I would really be worried about is why am I still hitting the wall, essentially. If I was at 227, I would be thinking, okay, here's what I need to adjust, and I have to do it quickly, as quickly as possible to avoid getting even more damage. And of course, the thing that we see, of course, is the most obvious thing is the external damage, but what about the internals? That not with that much of a bent front hood and a little bit of right side damage as well, the internal engine could be a little bit shaken around just a little bit.
That is a possibility for sure. Meanwhile, the battle for third starting to get pretty close because Ward's starting to close in on the front stretch, but he's not getting the run he needs to make the pass that we talked about being so difficult to try and set up. If you were one of those consistent drivers that have the faster pace, what's going through your mind? Scratch that, because Ward just has Paulson let him on by for the third spot. Scratch that point there. Basically now Jeff Ward up into the third spot rather.
Yes, and he is, and that was something kind of expected with the way he's been running tonight. That car's just been really, really quick, and he's definitely pulling some time now. Only 3.8 back from Preet, but it's a lot on this racetrack, and it'll take some time to get there. But lap traffic could definitely have an impact if we get to the point where he's actually involved in it. Right now, if we look at the 16 at the moment, that's Steve Ritter with Hunter King, Douglas Johnson, and Tyler Butcher Benjamin just coming up behind them. And talk about good names for drivers. Tyler Butcher Benjamin. That is an awesome race car driver name. It's almost as good as a guy who I met once called Doug Hazard, who I met in the truck series. That's an awesome NASCAR name, but Butcher Benjamin. amazing as well, the 88 of Douglas Johnson just comes sliding through there, making space. So does the 8.
And Douglas R. Johnson, a great run, meanwhile, and Steve Ritter, who also has the front-end damage from the caution before in the Alan Kawicki throwback. That Dale Earnhardt Sr. throwback in the 88, backing off a bit, trying to regroup to try and get the pass done, with Hunter King now on his doorstep right towards his back bumper, as they continue to close in on Michael Cozy, who's still on those older tires, to save that extra set here on the racetrack. If you're one of the drivers that have consistent lap times right now, how difficult is it to, once you say, have a good pace, have clean air, and then all of a sudden you reach a group of traffic like this to say, okay, how do I quickly adjust? As Johnson forces Butcher Benjamin to adjust to go to the bottom side.
That was great avoidance there by the number 8. My goodness. I thought they were going to collide off turn number 2 there for a second, but they didn't. They kept it straight, and the 8 gets a little bit loose off turn number 4, though. Nonetheless, back to your point, Justin, being the having a good pace and catching up to lap cars, I would more than likely be a little bit frustrated, but you just have to adapt, try and figure out what line they're running. Car placement is usually the main communication that you have to set here at this track, especially with lap cars and lap traffic. And if you come up on a huge bunch, well, you just have to take your time.
Oh. And meanwhile, the 9 car, which was closing every single lap on Travis Brown, just got a bit of luck. That 77 mark coming into the pits, bunched up the traffic enough to where Jeff Ward was able to get by as there was contact with the outside wall because of that said bunching up on the exit of turn 2. Jeff Ward now moves up into the 2nd spot as the only driver still in the 29s with everyone else in the 32nd bracket.
Certainly is, and he is going very
quickly. Trouble! Turn 4! Taylor Butcher Benjamin spins out around the pit entry, making contact with Steve Ritter. No caution on the racetrack, but a huge incident for the number 8, losing a ton of time and has a ton of damage from the incident in turn 4.
That is something we've got to reap up there. The 16 car kind of is the one at fault here, because the 8 just... Well, the 8 came down a little bit, but it seems that the 16 didn't give him any room whatsoever, kept himself high, and got involved in that contact. So I'd put that on the 16, to be honest, in terms of this Citroen Ritter. I just didn't give him any room whatsoever. And racing incidents happen, but we'll see a lot of these all night. People getting into contacts where there's no caution. This field will be thinned out in no time.
Yeah, a lot of rough incidents there. Mark Goines going back into the pits as this is going on. Butcher Benjamin staying on the racetrack and drops all the way back from where he was around that P10 spot to 17th. All because of that. And they're really starting to bunch up in multiple different spots too. They're starting to get to where they are not being patient in terms of lap traffic. Mike Montesi right now is one of those that is up at the back end now, and Mark Arthur, as they approach that number 8 machine of Butcher Benjamin, and is starting to get where he's getting right to the back bumper and nearly kissing it each time he doesn't move on by when he gets a run.
Yeah, that number 12 was pretty much on the back bumper, bunt drafting essentially that 7 down the back straightaway as the 8 moves down to the inside. As a lap car, I mean, if you are faster, that makes sense, but you have to be very careful and not... Go ahead.
Yeah, more smoke, meanwhile, on the racetrack part of me, because drivers are starting to come in the pits. Corey Stevens with a big-time drift, so it looks like some drivers on lap 60 have elected to open up the pit window. John Johnson, who was in the 10th spot last time by him, also spun through turns 1 and 2 while getting loose. So people are either electing to get tires now, or their tires are starting to fall apart. It's getting to a point where
it's time where they really need to do something about this, and well, the cars that haven't stopped yet, they've kind of lucked out. They were hoping for a caution, didn't get it.
Yeah, no cautions yet on the racetrack. The 24 just missed the pits. John Johnson taking a tow truck after missing the pit wall entry and nearly smacking into the barrels. So drivers are starting to come into the pits around the middle of the pack, but are starting to miss that very tough pit entry, Gary, where it's so easy to miss it.
Yeah, it's a very sharp left-hand turn, and I'm just looking around turns 3 and 4, just watching for anybody that comes down into the pit lane. The thing is, you have to slow down, head to the inside of the back straightaway, or no, I thought somebody said the pit road, that was just their line, but you have to slow down the back straightaway, head down to the inside, slow it down, keep it down to that inside wall, and just make sure that you stay down to the inside. Here comes the A Butcher bend. Nope, never mind. He's actually going to let the 88 by, giving Cozy Jr. some space. 99 rather.
Yeah, right now, 10 drivers, just 10 drivers on the lead lap. The last of those right now is Michael Cozy Jr. 24 seconds back of the race leader and Spencer Preet, who has started to gain a bit of distance again, a 2.5 second gap. Last time by, though, Jeff Ward still the fastest driver on the track by 0.3 of a second as they're lapping their way to 11th on back right now. The question is, though, I think, Rachel, is the pace. It's going to still be a long way. Is the pace that Ward's running right now, rather, enough to reach him by, say, the checker flag, you think?
That'll be interesting to see. And Ward is flying right now on the racetrack, but not sure it's sustainable. They've got to get to lap 100. They're still like 35 laps away. That's a long way to go before he wants to make a pit stop. And let's not forget, he came in on 33, so he'll be hitting about 50 or so laps on his tires in no time at all. That's going to be a major factor. By about lap 85 or so, he'll be struggling.
And that adds to the next question. With a couple drivers now electing to use up their final set now, a few laps ago rather, when do you elect to bring it into the pits? Mike Montesi is one of those drivers right now. When do you elect to use that final set if you were one of the drivers who pit on lap 33 during the caution?
The thing is, you just have to stretch it out, be very careful. Say those tires don't go all out on those tires, because that's going to be your second to last set, and you have to use that one very, very wisely and be as careful as possible when running. But right now, as far as I know, maybe Spencer Preet could be saving. Maybe that's why that number 9 of Jeff Ward is just about, last time around, at least 0.3 faster. So that could be something that the 00 is doing. He's letting the 9 use up his tires so that Preet could eventually take advantage of that. And, well, maybe it's something we could be seeing, but that's something we'll just have to find out in a few laps' time.
We definitely have to right now. Lap 68 of 147 just being reached right now across the racetrack as the multiple throwbacks continue to race hard against each other across the circuit, with Spencer Preet holding on to just above a 2-second lead. Third spot right now is Derek Paulson, with Travis Brown, Sean Wilder rounding out the top 5 for the time being, as some more drivers elected to come in. Steve Ritter, who's a lap down to the 10th spot, coming into the pits now. That almost bunched up a bunch of drivers. Paulson, Montesi, Travis Brown among those being bunched up. So now it's going to be interesting if all the drivers, say, go down to the bottom side for the backstretch instead, because some drivers are waiting all the way into near the apex of turn 3 to try and break and cut into the pits, it seems, in some cases.
Certainly is, and green flag stops will have to happen very shortly, I think, in that regard, especially for the guys in on lap 32. Maybe about 10 laps time.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, the cycles, few drivers still continuing to try and undercut drivers across the field as we're approaching the set halfway point. And as we approach that said halfway point, the action continuing to heat up here for the Blue Cord Apparel 200 here at Darlington. Once again, Blue Cord Apparel, a veteran-owned and operated online apparel store with tons of authentic hats and shirts to choose from any patriot who can find the right fit. Use promo code THROWBACK18 for 20% off your next order. And right now, drivers continue to keep up the rhythm. And at this point, it has to be the case of trying to save tires here for Preet, because the gap is down to under a 1.5 seconds with Jeff Ward. And they're right now the 2 by far fastest drivers on the racetrack. The question is, will Ward reach him before they duck into the pits? And do you maybe undercut Gary if you're one of the drivers?
The one thing that you also have to look out for is going to be that next lap car, and unfortunately it's Michael Cozy Jr., who I believe probably did make his next pit stop. So nonetheless, though, they're coming up to Cozy Jr., and he's had the pit road a little bit loose. He finally ducks out of the way there, so little bit loose on the entry. So now these two have a clean racetrack, and especially Jeff Ward. He's got that clean racetrack in front of him, but he's also got that small little bit of a slipstream every time he closes the gap. Last time, the gap was 1.4 seconds at the line. This time, by its 0.9 seconds, Jeff Ward is flying up to that back bumper, the 00.
Hunter King also going down in the pits at the same time as Cozy right now. And right now, as this continues to try and play itself out towards those pit stops for them, for Cozy Jr. to emphasize with that number 99, he has an extra set, did not pit during the caution. As he overruns his pit box a touch, if there's a caution in the late part of the race, he's got the advantage here at Darlington for a late race caution, guys.
Certainly does, and that's going to be interesting to see when we have it happen, but these old tyres are going to cause what we had around lap 30, lots of spin-outs and problems, so at about, well, now, from this point forwards, we're going to start to see people getting very, very, very sketchy.
Yeah, a fair amount of the drivers have been able to hold on for now, but this was around that lap 30 plus mark where a lot of drivers started getting nearly wrecking loose or topping into the wall. As we just passed the halfway point here for today's race, the Blue Court Apparel 200 for the SESRA series. And with that, that means let's take a look at your iRacing midway race break. Brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally organized racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, and more. Right now, taking a look at your top 10 for the time being right now as the pit window starts to creep its way forward. Spencer Preet holding on to what is now a 0.4 of a second lead over Jeff Ward. Jeff Ward currently separated by one lap car between the two. Meanwhile, 6.4 seconds back is Derek Paulson with Travis Brown and Sean Wilder inside the top 5. Sean Wilder 11 seconds back with Kyle Vincent Gilbert. He's got a bunch of Darlington stripes tonight, has had a wild ride in his car. He's in the 6th spot with Brian McRae in the 7th spot on the racetrack in that Davey Allison throwback. And the 8th spot right now in the pits, in fact, is the 86 of Jay Graves Jr. with Douglas R. Johnson and Jason Anderson rounding out your top 10. Just a total of 8 drivers on the lead lap, as that has been a look at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com to sign up today. And meanwhile, as that point finishes up, Wally Wilson, he's had a wild day, has spun out down the backstretch and has stopped on the backstretch, way at the bottom of the apron, just out of reach of a possible caution here, as now Jeff Ward has taken the lead, guys.
Well, this is what we expected to an extent. He's been moving super fast there on the racetrack, and traffic was the factor that helped it happen, so that's one of those things you do need to pay attention to. Traffic got involved, and that's how he got that lead, so it's one of those things you have to manage at Darlington.
You definitely have to manage that. That said traffic, that was the John Johnson, along with Mike Montesi, they both had to manage in terms of the traffic that ended up setting that up for the pass. So now Jeff Ward in the lead by about half a second and starting to grow as he has a bit of breathing room. Spencer Preet, he had to let John Johnson by, who's on fresher tires right now, and they still have to pit. He's got a bit of luck because Jeff Ward has to brake check and move his way back in the line after going to the bottom side. That closes the gap right back up between Preet and Ward.
And Spencer Preet had the momentum for a half second there in the middle of turns 1 and 2, but that launch off turn number 2 belongs to that number 9 for the time being. So lap traffic, whether you're passing it or it's passing you, that's something to be very, very aware of, especially when you're trying to keep a position or race for a position, in this case between the 00 and the 9. But for now, Jeff Ward has been in the lead for pretty much all 3 to 4 laps ever since he's taken that lead entering turn number 1.
And right now, in terms of the drivers, they have still not elected to pit a majority of the field right now. The top 9 have not pit on the racetrack yet. Michael Cozy Jr. is on the freshest tires on the racetrack right now and still has that extra set. He's all the way back in 13th, as we'll have to see how this works. Meanwhile, some drivers cutting in. Jason Anderson has just ducked into the pits and will go now an extra lap down to the racetrack. Also ducking into the pits now is Douglas R. Johnson in the number 88, making the pit entry. So the window now wide open for a lot of the drivers on the racetrack.
Yeah, certainly is, and those guys will be heading into pit road very, very, very soon. As we could have some instances getting on there, because getting onto pit road here is very difficult. You're coming off and entering turn 3, and having to go around the apron to get in there just right. So also very tricky for pit road to spot the entrance for.
Yeah, we talked about it a bit before of how difficult it was. Meanwhile, trying to find that scene that said difficult, and Brian McRae, he ends up hitting the inside wall and has to duck into the pits. No caution for the incident, but a lot of damage from that inside wall, Gary, on the slide McRae just had.
And looking back at that, he got pretty much started all the way off of turn number 2, hit the outside wall, pulled off of the outside wall, tried to save it, almost spun out, slammed the inside, and somehow managed to keep it forward and straight. But unfortunately, he's going to be spending a lot more time in pit road repairing that car.
And that's going to be the question. It's not as easy as, say, having a caution flag to where you just drop to the back and get the repairs done. At this point, it might be just maybe the situation trying to make tires work or something here. He is looking like he is, in fact, electing to just take the tires, keeping the damage. That will have to be fixed up on if there's another caution flag on the racetrack, as he is off and away and losing a fair amount of track time because of all of that right now. So just 6 drivers now are on the lead lap, with everyone in that top 6 needing to come into pit lane. Rachel.
Absolutely, and that's going to be the one they need to really time right here. Ward, though, yeah, he seems to run his tyres really well late to the run. That is something Spencer Pruitt will need to remember. He's fast early on, but get a good long run here. Jeff Ward is going to come get you, and that is something that will definitely impact us towards the end of this race.
Now, 0.2 faster last time by was Ward compared to Pruitt on the racetrack. Of course, Jeff Ward having a strong run in Charlotte in the previous week for the SESRA series for sure is. Right now, they led by Jay Graves, at least right now. Pruitt does, in that number 86, having to save that. But watch Michael Cozy Jr. Right now, he has an extra 1 set left on the racetrack. Everyone else has had to use both of their sets for the pit stops. They used them at lap 33. The rest of the field who was pit have already used them in this green flag cycle. The question will be, where will Michael Cozy be on the racetrack when the lead drivers come into pit? That's going to be the question, I think, Gary.
Yeah, he is 2 laps down for the time. In the process, though, of trying to unlap himself, all he has to do is catch up to Jeff Ward, and, well, Cozy was in a little bit of traffic in the his lead lap traffic in his case in terms of the 00, but it's got that 86 right behind him, so these two position, but they're gonna have to be very careful in when they decide to battle. Now is not the time. They both have to battle first, and then they can battle as freely as they want.
They absolutely can right now as we continue to look at some of these very nice looking paint schemes tonight for the Blue Cord Apparel 200. Of course, we talked about this at the top. We'll mention this once again, but the throwback paint schemes will be having an online vote this week on LSRTV for the best paint scheme, with the winner getting a free car or track of their choice, courtesy of LSRTV. Be sure to vote, because these drivers, they're going to want to have those free goods. And we've seen a lot of beautiful paint schemes that we discussed a little bit tonight. Travis Brown having a bit of a unique scheme in the Black Country Rock throwback in the 01. Driving now alongside one of the old Milwaukee throwbacks, the number 27 for AR-15 Racing, who moves on by on the fresher tires. Just a heck of a lot of beautiful paint schemes here tonight. A lot of these teams putting hard effort to find these set schemes.
Absolutely, and they end up being absolutely beautiful. A lot of these guys have created their own liveries as well for these cars to give them that real feel, find the exact one they want to replicate. I mean, these liveries mean as much to these guys. In a lot of cases, it does to the real drivers in NASCAR when they run the retro schemes for Darlington. It's something that's personal. It's about one of their favorite drivers past, or a favorite driver from an era gone by, and it's great to be able to represent that in a race.
It definitely is right now. One special note to mention in terms of the 91 that you've seen throughout the race today, and Sean Wilder, he had made changes of plans in the past 24 hours with the throwback scheme, and talked about this a bit with some of the fellow drivers, with his dad in the fight of his life against Luke Bullman, and the fact that his team, his drag car for this family over the past 30 years, used a similar paint scheme. They elected to switch to this Bill Elliott paint scheme that was used as a throwback in the 2004 Bud Shootout. Win the first race basically with the next in the NASCAR or newly branded Nextel Cup Series for the Cup Series. So some of these drivers, it's about personal notes as well in terms of whether it's growing up watching these drivers or personal connections, Gary.
That's very amazing to know the history behind these paint schemes or the car numbers as well in the process. I mean, some drivers use their car numbers to an advantage, thinking, okay, well, what retro paint scheme can I use that was used on this car number? And not sure who I saw, but somebody got the paint scheme from a very early era, and the era where I believe the horsepower is marked on the sides of the hood. But a few laps ago, a little bit of a topic change, unfortunately. We saw the 9 of Jeff Ward all the way on the bottom side. Entering turn number 1, he got loose, almost spun it, but the reason being is because for some reason he tried to block the momentum of the 86 Jay Graves Jr., who was trying to unlap himself to get himself back to 1 lap down. Why Jeff Ward would try and jeopardize himself like that, I'm not sure. That's not really a good way to retain a lead. I would personally just let the lap car by, so maybe there's something that Jeff Ward maybe couldn't be happy about with Jay Graves, but nonetheless, he's sort of fallen back into the clutches since then of that 00 Spencer Pre, but for the time being, though, he still manages to maintain that lead.
Yeah, right now the lead is at 7/10 of a second. That time by, lap times are about even right now on the track as they continue to cycle their way through. And right now, it looks like in terms of Ward for now, he seems to be a bit more comfortable in turn 2, and he's going to go into the pits for turn 3. He's going to undercut the 00 of Pretas. He's into the pits for the second time tonight to use his final set of tires.
Yeah, good call by him there to come in at this stage. He could make 55 laps, I think, at this point. He's done at least that much on this set. And we know he's been fast towards the end, so this is going to be a big hit for Spencer Preet, who will have to go really hard. In fact, if he doesn't come in this time by, I'd be really, really surprised. We'll have a look here on 00 Preet. Is he going to come to pit road? Yes, he is. He's reacting. He gets a bit sideways there on the infield. Hold it down, Spencer Preet. He can do this. Just gets it round the corner nice and tight. Makes it to pit road. Gets it down on the speed. This is such a critical pit road, and it feels so slow here. Almost as bad as Bristol or Martinsville when you're running down pit road at a crawl. Gets it in there, but he's got to go hard or find something to save tyres for the end of the race to react to Jeff Ward, who's just coming off pit road now. Down and away. 4 tyres. Probably got some gas at this point just to take him to the end of the race, and there you go. Out for the 9, and caution flies. Perfect timing for Ward and Preet.
And it's Steve Ritter. Yeah, Steve Ritter slides down the racetrack through turn 4 and collects a couple of our drivers. John Johnson making contact, you'll see on the replay, as well as Douglas R. Johnson. So third time tonight, the 16 has been involved in an incident that has been pretty significant for this race. That changes everything.
That's just... Go ahead, Rachel.
I was going to say, it's absolutely a thing in this one. That's just... this changes everything. We said that a minute ago, but this changes the entire flow of this race. Now we've got a really bunched up restart for this one, which puts Preet and Ward into a very good position for this race. They're both going to be a little bit back in terms of where they come out in terms of traffic, but with how fast they are, getting through this will be interesting. Guys, the one who have now used that set of tyres that have a couple of laps on them, this could be interesting because they're going to have slippery tyres for this restart. Some guys on brand new tyres coming in under the caution. It's going to be very, very interesting, but Preet is going to come back into about, I believe, maybe 5th or 6th in this one with the restart. We'll see where he comes through. It's going to be, this will be an interesting restart to watch.
We're going to have, right now the drivers are trying to cycle where they're going to have to be on the racetrack, as this kind of plays into the hands maybe of Michael Cozy Jr., who, remember, had been put a lap down trying to race his way back onto the lead lap, and now, in fact, I don't even know if I think I'm going to swing the exact opposite way with this, because he's in fact going to have to be forced to take a wave around. So because of where that time of the caution came out, with the leaders still either exiting the pits or in the pits. It's going to be scrambling things up as the scoring continues to try and update itself on the racetrack, really. This is going to be interesting now because, remember, Cozy Jr. is the only driver on the racetrack and left with very little damage, who is up towards the front, who had the extra set of tires after not using them on lap 33.
Yeah, Cozy definitely took a great choice in terms of saving his tires, but scoring, of course, does say that they are on the lead lap as of now, but they're in front of the leaders, though, so if they're going to get waved around the pace car before the one-to-go signal, then that's going to be great for them. But the thing is that usually the lap cars in front of the leaders get waved around at the one-to-go signal, so there really wouldn't be time, and there they go to pit road.
And coming into pit road, it looks like the 00 also following them on in as well as Spencer Preet. So this really makes it interesting by far on the racetrack. Remember, Preet was down pit road about the time of the caution. So this is going to be the question where, did he use up his already set as he coming out for safe fuel right now? Just trying to double check on my side right now with the help of JRT timing. And because of that caution, he did not use his set of tires. He is elected to take them now and follow Michael Cozy Jr. into the pits here.
Yeah, that will definitely play this one forwards into an interesting fashion. How will this play forwards? Well, we can't really put a guess on it. It's going to be interesting coming to the end of when the green flag comes back out again and we see how this one actually plays. But Preet going back down pit road, that does surprise me. But I guess he's not going to lose much more now compared to what he had. Or I think he drove through pit road, actually. Yeah, he drove through pit road when the caution came out, so that's why he's back in again. Wise call. He doesn't lose the lap there. That's important. But it's going to put him way behind Ward. Way behind Ward.
Yeah, sacrificing a bit of track position in terms of all this. Right now, timing and scoring continuing to having to update across the racetrack. Because of that timing, there were still drivers that were at least a lap down right as the pit lane. Because remember, Preet was the last driver to pit on the racetrack. And because of the timing, it could potentially trap some drivers out. It's getting to where right now, down the front stretch, they continue to try and cycle out, make sure of the timing and scoring. Waved around the drivers that go. Derek Paulson waved around. Travis Brown going to be waved around. And the way I'm looking at this, just 3 drivers are not going to be waved around the pace car that are going to be on the lead lap. This completely scrambles the entire race. Jeff Ward, Mike Montesi, and Spencer Preet are the only drivers that are on the lead lap. If I'm looking at this right, Gary, that are not going to be waved around here. On the lead lap, rather.
Looking at it again, seeing it through JRT that he's apparently scored in third, so it is still a little bit scrambling around just to make sure. So this restart is going to be very, very chaotic in terms of where everybody's placed from the scoring.
And Michael Cozy Jr. has taken a bit of a bit of a dice roll, so to speak. He elected to pit and stay a lap down in case this brains out, in case he gets the lucky dog situation, racing with that with Jay Graves Jr. That is the second row. So the top 2 currently on the racetrack are for position. Jeff Ward, Spencer Preet. Restart zone they go. Jeff Ward, off he goes as the green flag's up. And we're back on our way for the Blue Court Apparel 200. An interesting take here at Darlington for this race as they go through turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, the 00 there, right behind Jeff Ward with that's 99 car, a lap down car right up behind them there. He's sticking with him pretty well on speed though, but wow, Jeff Ward is absolutely off already. Keep himself moving forward. 00 goes to the low side as caution flies. Lead will stay with Jeff Ward. This helps those cars that just waved around now because they get to catch up finally. But well, the lap down cars may not actually get a chance to wave here because these front guys ain't coming in.
It could be why. Sorry to interject there, Justin, but that could be why. Race control through the caution, and that could be reason for scoring.
Yeah, because, again, that caused a lot of chaos to where there was only 3 cars on the lead lap. The rest of the drivers forced to wave around. Now with the caution, that allows everyone to really breathe and get to where they can cycle to where they really are with that, to where it doesn't scramble up the race. So everyone's going to go back again behind the pace car. And it looks like that's going to help Michael Cozy Jr. as he's in the lucky dog spot in the number 99 machine.
Yeah, that's going to be lucky for him, I think, in this case. Wow, that's why it was so fast. It was Cozy Jr. Okay, that helps him a lot. He's now in a fighting position here. It's going to be 10th place, but it's a big advantage.
Yeah, he's going to be brought right on by as the lucky dog, as he will be now one of 10 drivers on the lead lap here for the Blue Cord Apparel 200. As once again, to remind you, if you're enjoying this race, why don't you check out Blue Cord Apparel? Blue Cord Apparel is a veteran-owned and operated online apparel store with tons of authentic hats and shirts to choose from any Patriot that they can find the right fit. Use the promo code THROWBACK18 for 20% off your next order. And with that, that kind of settles things down, but restacks the field for a restart with about 40 laps to go, where anything can happen, Gary.
Yeah, and few drivers in pit road probably getting repairs more than likely are the likes of Corey Stevens, Kyle Vincent Gilbert, Mike Montesi, and Brian McRae. And I think what happened for the number 7, as it looks like the 28th, sorry, that's a 35 rather, of McRae. He had pit road. Montesi overshot his pit stall ever so slightly. He had to back up just about a half a foot. So that's going to maybe cost him, at least in terms of track position, but nonetheless, though, he is still fine as all 4 drivers now start to make their way off of pit road.
Yeah, McRae, the first of the drivers out of pit road, as a lot of these drivers currently either at the tail end of the lead lap or getting repairs a couple laps down. And that gets to the point with McRae. Remember, made hard contact during the green flag run while saving the car on the inside wall. This is where, Rachel, he was able to finally get those repairs done, at least as much as he can, to reduce the amount of possible handling issues and speed issues.
Yeah, absolutely, and, well, damage is expected here, and you got to work with what you've got, but I don't think this will be our last caution of the night, so there'll be a couple more guys getting wave rounds to this thing, and that only kind of increases the amount of people who think they've now got a shot at this. And damage or not, everyone's going to try it towards the end of this.
Kyle Vincent Gilbert is still getting repairs right now. He's coming into the pits from the 10th spot. He's at the end of the lead lap. That allows Michael Cozy Jr. to move up to the 9th spot as they continue to cycle back behind the pace car. Approaching now lap 106. When we get back under green, it will be a 40-lap race for the Blue Cord Apparel 200 for the SESRA series for this 3rd round of the season. Pace car goes down the front stretch. Lights go off. We're at 1 to go. Let's look at how they're going to line up here for this restart. Jeff Ward's on the inside of the front row, currently in the lead. Been one of the fastest drivers today. The fastest lap time overall, though, went to Spencer Preet earlier today. He starts second on the outside line. In the 3rd spot is Travis Brown with Derek Paulson in the 2nd row. In the 3rd row for this restart, that Bill Elliott throwback from 2004 and Spencer Wilder. In the 5th spot with Brian McRae in 6th. 7th spot right now, currently a bit jumbled up because of how the pit stops repairs have gone. Currently in the 7th spot on track is the first driver a lap down, and Jay Graves. They, right now, puts a few drivers behind lap traffic. Corey Stevens will start on the outside of said lap traffic. Then Mike Montesi is joining the line in the 8th spot. Also on the lead lap, Michael Cozy Jr. and Kyle Vincent Gilbert at the back of the line. Pace car is off, into the pits it goes. They enter the restart zone. Montesi moves towards the bottom side behind. Ward's off and away. We're back on our green for the Blue Cord Apparel 200 here at Darlington Raceway.
Great jump by that number 9 and Jeff Ward, still side by side. Travis Brown trying to get up to that 3rd place position, and he does very successfully. Derek Paulson completely doing an amazing job riding in that 4th place position, and then just a side-by-side battle and jumble of cars all the way behind them as the first half of the field single files out.
Yeah, they've already gone back to single files out, but it's double file starting to form up behind Brian McRae and Jay Graves. Jay Graves a bit faster than McRae from the damage. As they move right now, Graves, the first driver a lap down, moves on by, not for position. Mark Arthur also closing up. Next driver for positions, Mike Montesi in the 8th spot. But look at this. They're starting to close up, bunch up, as now Montesi has to defend Corey Jr. Cozy Jr. having to get off the gas. So does Montesi, almost running to the back of McRae. They get all bunched up. Cozy Jr. goes to the bottom side and takes 2 for 1 through turns 3 and 4.
Man, great pass there by Cozy Jr., but that was some tight racing in 3 and 4, getting very, very busy. Gets it done there. Wow, Calvin to Gilbert gets through there as well. The 227 car moving himself forwards. The 7 car of Montesi goes through as well. The lead though, Preet and Ward.
And Preet is able to get by Ward for the race lead through the diving into turn number 3. The question is, can Ward get on by? And can Preet defend? Ward gets the run down the front stretch, checks up down the front stretch. They'll stay single file back to the point. Spencer Preet.
That could have costed that number 9, Jeff Ward. I'm pretty sure he was more than likely not willing to chance it and accidentally somehow wash up and take out the 00 or himself in the process. But the thing is, Jeff Ward had that momentum. He was doing so well. He had that same run, that
trouble.
00.
Turn 2. Backstretch right now. Johnson and Ritter collecting a big one. No caution out on the racetrack yet. But a huge collision as Ritter ends up smacking the wall for the 4th time. They're still slow down the backstretch. No caution on the racetrack at the place too tough to tame.
I think Ritter's done. He's putting that car to pit road right now. He'll probably have mandatory repairs on that vehicle. Preet has got an early run here, but if this thing stays green, there's a real chance Jeff Ward will just catch and pass him again. And I think Preet has to be hoping for the short run caution.
Remember, what we talked about this a bit, Preet is faster on the short run. 28.7, half a second right now in terms of faster pace than Jeff Ward on the short run. Is their goal, if he gets the caution, he's in the great spot. If it stays green, Jeff Ward, who's the fastest driver in the longer run, at a great spot. If you're Jeff Ward, how do you try and adjust to try and keep up with Preet at least in the mid-run to set up for the final few laps in this one to have a shot to win?
Save the tires as much as possible in this case, since it is pretty much the last set that they have. But again, that 9 that does have that clear and open air in front of him, aside from that 00, he could use that lap traffic to an advantage as well if he can. If that number 9 can somehow get that long run, that momentum back up. And well, right now he just has to hope for some bad luck from that 00. But again, saving those tires is a key thing to have here at this track, just so you can save it in the long run if a caution does come out.
And remember, they're all out of tire sets right now. Every single driver has used their 2 sets of tires on the racetrack that are still running on the circuit. Right now, the only drivers off racetrack include Steve Ritter, John Johnson, also now a part of the drivers off the racetrack, along with Wally Wilson, Stephen Parks, Tyler Pisno, Matt Ridgway, Zachary Sprun, Jason Taylor as the drivers now off the racetrack. But anything can happen. They're starting to get really racy and working their way through lap traffic, some of these drivers. Yeah, you basically, I think, have to try and keep it clean if you want to get to the finish from here and want to contend for this win.
Yeah, absolutely. Keeping it clean will be the critical component for these guys. It's hard to do, really hard to do, but it's entirely possible to achieve a clean run to the end. But will Darlington let them? I don't think so.
And this race could have a lot of points implications with Brian McRae all the way at the back. Looking at the onboard now, it looks like, I believe Jeff Ward, pardon me, who is right now trying to close back on in. Last time by, he was faster than a 10th, in fact, to Spencer Preet. So maybe trying to follow the same line and adjust, because he's getting a bit of luck too, because Preet, I think, just tapped the wall through turn 4. That loses him the momentum. Ward's going to catch up to the back bumper as they head into turn 1.
Looks to the inside, couldn't get it done, unfortunately. Couldn't keep that momentum, and I'm pretty sure what the 9 of Ward thought is that he was going to run right up on top of that back bumper and turn the 00 around, but my goodness, Spencer Preet got the momentum back as quickly as he lost it. That is absolutely insane, but that gap has closed. But for the time being, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, quite literally all under a blanket. Corey Stevens rounds out that 5th place position. All 3 are single file. Right when I say that, the 5 moves down to the inside. That's Paulson as the 01 of Travis Brown might have caught the wall of turn number 4. That's going to move the 5 of Paulson up. Crossover from the 01 of Brown, trying to keep that 3rd place position.
And Paulson trying to gain some points and gain positions, able to do so. That opens up the door for Corey Stevens on the inside of Travis Brown. As here comes the number 99 on the freshest tires on the racetrack, Michael Cozy Jr. He is closing on in and quick compared to these drivers all the way up to P number 2. He's right now on the racetrack, scored in the 6th spot. How quickly can he get by them is going to be the big question.
Well, Cozy Jr. had some bad luck at Charlotte. This could be his redemption moment with a great tyre call here. This could be everything for him. And look at how fast he closes up there on Travis Brown. Just wham! Actually caught a piece of bumper there, I think, because he ducks to the inside. Slide jobs in beautifully in 3 and 4. That's how it's done. Perfect slide job for Darlington. Oh, sideways!
Big slide right in front. That was the 19 again of Corey Stevens, saving it from hitting the inside wall on the Yeti machine. And that allows Cozy Jr. to at least move up to 4th, but that had to be a big-time scary moment if you are the 99 of the 01, seeing that driver slide around.
Yeah, it's something that the 99 of Cozy Jr. does not want to see, but now he's finally gotten out of that way, and he's got essentially a clear track in front of him between he and the 3rd place driver of Derek Paulson, who made an amazing pass, so it's going to be a very great battle, but right now, just ever so slightly faster looks to be Derek Paulson, but the fastest driver on the racetrack out of the first 4 rather, is a 29.590 rather, is Jeff Ward, so he's catching back up to Spencer Preet with those very small 0.01 roughly, about those small hundredths of a second advantage right now.
Again, this time, Derek Paulson, in fact, and pardon me, it was Jeff Ward, pardon me, on the fastest time. Both of them in the 29.7s. Paulson falls back to the 29.8s. Cozy Jr. back to the 30 flat just about. As Jeff Ward continues to fall into the tire tracks, approaching 25 laps to go at the place too tough to tame, Darlington Raceway, continuing to fall in and close in as much as he can, having a bit of a stronger run once again, slowly getting a little bit of a whiff of the draft as well as they head back into turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, and pushing as absolutely hard as possible. Cozy Jr. catching up now to Paulson pretty strongly at the moment. It's 29.782 last time by for him. That car just looking glued down. The fresh tyres mean everything to him at the moment. And now the difference between Preet and Ward's half a second. That race is nowhere near over. But if they race each other, it's a really good chance they'll bring Cozy into this battle.
They absolutely will, because Cozy Jr. is, with his strategy, put himself in a great spot here for at least the top 5. It's starting to slowly reel in Paulson. That time ran the 2nd quickest. Fastest was Spencer Preet. Remember, they're basically on the same cycle of tires because of the time of the caution when Spencer Preet went back in to get his set of used tires.
Oh, he hit the wall.
And now Spencer Preet hits the wall once again. That loses him even more momentum, even more of a Darlington strike for him as Jeff Ward back into the battle once again.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off there mid-sentence, but Preet got the wall again off turn number 4, so that's going to be more bad luck. That's the 2nd time in this run, I believe, as well, that he's hit that wall, so that's going to bring the 9 back up to the back bumper, but the thing is, the same lap that Spencer Preet hit the wall is the same lap that Jeff Ward took a little bit too low of an entry during 3 and 4. Now that I have lap traffic in the form of Douglas Johnson, if that 88 could move out of the way, then that's going to be essentially a battle between both of these drivers, but it looks like it's going to be, well, no, 88 stays to the low side off turn number 2. He's going to get held up.
And Ward has to check up as they both get held up by the number 88. He lets them by on the inside, going to the inside, but that got too close for comfort. Ward still within a car length, about a quarter of a car length as they head down the front stretch. Here comes the run from Ward. He decides to dive back into line once again and stay behind Preet. Still trying to get the run he needs to.
Wow, this is getting super close up here on the racetrack as these guys push everything they've got into this thing. And wow, what a race we have for the battle in lap 127 here at Darlington. Into 3 and 4 they come. Preet and Ward. There's nothing between these guys. Can Ward actually get past him? He gets up to the bumper. He's inside into the front stretch. This could be a nice pass for him into turn 1. He'll have the low side, which is a big advantage. Will they risk too wide? They're going to stay with it as a bit of contact. Wow, big run there on the outside by Preet, defending nicely. This one's going to be huge.
And Preet having the preferred line for the turns 1 and 2 with that double apex, essentially, with that very high camber, very tight corner, ends up going to keep the lead for now as Jeff Ward has to check back up. The next drivers to turn to lap traffic, Jason Anderson, Taylor Butcher Benjamin, that they're going to have to deal with, who have been moving to as low as they can on the racetrack. Should not be too much of a factor. Under 20 laps to go with the Blue Court Apparel 200.
And Jeff Ward almost had that, but unfortunately he just couldn't find that momentum. And that's just, again, the lines. And while that 9 is more than likely kicking himself mentally at the very least, physically, well, of course, you're driving the race car, but he's closed the gap back up just this time around in about 0.25 seconds. And the fastest out of those two, almost equal lap times, both a 30 flat, but a .031 from Jeff Ward. So 2 100ths faster is that number 9. He'll catch back up again off turn number 2. It seems to be that's going to be his best corner for an opportunity to pass.
Yeah, it's been looking like he's been a bit stronger, looking on board with Jeff Ward as he's back onto the back bumper of Spencer Preet. Will this time go back side by side? Last time had to check up, this time gets a bit early on the brakes once again to check up, back to single file to get back to the outside. It looks like he's got the faster car, of course, right now, but he just can't get to where he needs to get the pass done yet, Rachel.
No, just not quite finding the opportunity. And Preet's making it hard for him. If Preet knows he can hold him off and defend, Jeff's tires don't mean anything. But like I said, this amount of racing will bring Cozy into this battle. He's 5 seconds back at the moment, which is an eternity at this racetrack. He may not have time, but I think Ward is the one being held back. And hey, Preet holds him off. He wins the race. That's all that matters. But he's holding back a caged tiger right now.
And the question is, when will Ward start to get a bit more aggressive to try and get this move done? The last time he went side by side into turn 1, had to let off the gas to try and prevent pushing up into Preet. If you are right now Jeff Ward, Gary, when do you feel is the green light to say, okay, time to try and be more aggressive to try and win this race?
Pretty much within under 10 laps to go, or the next time the driver in front of me would be messing up or make a small mistake. That's when you have to capitalize on it as quickly as possible. Right now, what the 9 is doing is the right thing, just waiting and just riding behind. He does have the momentum off turn number 4 and turn number 2 occasionally, like right here. He looks back down to the inside. Can he get it into turn number 1? He's got the core panel, but it'll get forced down unintentionally by that 00. So that line, of course, the apron is something that he'll have to watch out for as well. But that 9 has been slightly under those dashed white lines, so he could be fine. He just has to find the right time and the right place, which is pretty much on corner exit if he can find that momentum.
And still looking for that said momentum, coming now to lap 135 of 147 in what has been an eventful Blue Court Apparel 200 for the SESRA Series for the 3rd round at Darlington. Ward still trying to find any kind of poking way through. And now, big incident there. The 00 nearly taps the one Preet. That opens up the door for Jeff Ward. He goes to the inside into turn 3. They have lap traffic to deal with.
Oh!
And Ward gets contact with Preet. Piling in and it's going. No caution. Spencer Preet pulls away now from Jeff Ward, but a significant amount of damage from that. And it looks like there, guys.
Huge.
Yeah, absolutely huge, Rachel.
Wow, this is motor racing for you. That was just crazy. These are the sort of things that will happen though for these guys, and mistakes were made. That's going to cost him a huge amount.
And from what it sounds like, it looked like there, Mark Goyne got into the back of Preet, that pushed him into the right rear quarter panel of Ward, that pushed Ward into the wall. All 3 got bunched up, with Jeff Ward getting the worst of it, unfortunately for him. Now he is losing time and has a very damaged car on the racetrack. Preet's front end is demolished. This is a huge moment for this race, approaching 10 laps to go, Gary.
And definitely a huge for the number 5 of Derek Paulson. He's been riding in the top 3 for the past few laps ever since he made that pass for 3rd, and he's going to slide up the racetrack. Just don't stress me out there, Paulson. Goodness gracious. He is the fastest driver out of both of these two on the racetrack. Last time around, a 31, well, scratched out a 30.9 from Spencer Preet. He's catching up to Jeff Ward right now as Paulson's catching up to Jeff Ward, who set a 30.7, but a 30.3 by Derek Paulson. He could maybe have this in the bag. Ward does the right thing, showing it right there, knowing that the 5 has a faster car, and not too soon, it's going to be that 5 catching up to Spencer Preet for the lead.
Closing in and quick, has the least amount damaged car inside the top 5 right now. there is a lot of time to work with. Under 10 laps to go for the Blue Court Apparel 200. The Lady in Black has been in full force for the final 15 laps after contact with the 00 of Preet and the 9 of Jeff Ward, with some help from the 77 of Mark Going. As now, with Paulson, he's closing on in. Fastest car on the track by 0.3 of a second compared to the 00 in Preet. He's down to just a 0.6 fast. Lap fastest this time by is Michael Cozy now, who is now into the same bracket in that 99 machine. He is still 2.5 seconds back.
Oh, this could be massive for him. This could be Cozy Jr.'s chance. Fresh tyres closing right in on your lead group. This could be everything for him. He could definitely do this one. He could get involved here, and that would be huge for Cozy.
Everyone closing in. Here comes Paulson down the front stretch. He is down to about a car length and a half distance between him and Preet. Will he go in towards the inside? Tries to time up the exit of turn 2. Gets the run down the back stretch. They'll go side by side into turn 3. Paulson, bit earlier on the brakes. Preet still defending the high side. They're side by side heading towards the front stretch with Preet getting the run on the exit.
Great defending, but that 5 of Paulson is not giving up that inside lane. Preet moves down to the inside, and the 5 of Paulson will let up for the time being. Lap time is closing, and well, the time to attack essentially is closing as we're almost within 5 laps to go. Paulson had it. He just has to take that line or one of the lines away from Preet. And right now they are closing up on that traffic in the form of the 35, who hopefully and more than likely will move out of the way. So Paulson just has to be more, he just has to be smooth, and he just has to do that same thing one more time. Moves to the inside, Preet protects.
And Preet still protecting, having lap traffic to deal with. The 9 and the 99, Ward and Cozy Jr. are both closing in. They're down to within a second and a half as side by side, Paulson and Preet. Paulson side drafts. They go into turn 3. Can Paulson hold on to the run this time? He paints the dotted lines on the bottom. Preet doesn't get the run. They're still side by side with Paulson leading the lap with under 5 to go, now down to 4.
Oh, this is going to get even tighter as he got the wall. Preet in the wall there. The 3's going to get him now as he gets an easy possible pass. He stays behind him though. Ward there. Not able to make that move done. He looks to the inside, but look who's coming now. Cozy Jr. right on this thing. He's only 1.4 seconds back now. And wow, we're running out of laps. 3 to go, and this could all change. As up in the wall goes Paulson. He gets the wall in turn number 4. This could absolutely change the entire race here. Come on, Cozy, you got the freshest tires on the racetrack. Make it count now. We're going to have 3 laps remaining of this race, and this one is absolutely seat your pants stuff here. Can Paulson hold on?
Paulson right now up to a 1.2 second lead as they head down the back stretch. Approaching 2 laps to go for the Blue Court Apparel 200. Ward trying to fight for the second spot. Tries to tuck back in underneath Preet with Cozy Jr. joining in behind. He nearly taps the outside wall. Cozy Jr. gets the run on Jeff Ward. He moves up into the 3rd spot. Cozy slides up. Ward goes for the switchback. They're side by side again now to 2. Cozy Jr. gets the run on the outside.
Oh! He hit the wall heavy off turn number 2, slides in front of the 9 somehow, still retains that 3rd place position. Sorry to cut you off there, Justin, but my goodness. Throughout all of that, no, never mind, 9 to the outside, side drafts. They make contact. Cozy falls back to 4th. The 9 hits the wall off turn number 4 on the outside, and this is the white flag.
1 lap to go for the SESRA Series at Darlington for the Blue Court Apparel 200. Derek Paulson, as this has been going on, has pulled to a 1.5 second lead over Spencer Preet. He's got clean sailing up at the front of the field in the Sitco throwback. Can he keep it clean? Turns 3 and 4. Has a good exit, a good run. Derek Paulson will take the checkered flag and win the Blue Court Apparel 200 at Darlington. Spencer Preet holds on to 2nd. Michael Cozy Jr. redeemed himself for the 3rd spot. Jeff Ward finishes 4th in a wild finish.
Oh, amazing. I've got to give it to Derek Paulson. 10th qualifier and a phenomenal run there. Paulson had the right chance there. Cozy just a little too late. But my God, the fight we had there with Jeff Ward and Cozy was insane. That was some great racing.
Absolutely great and wild racing, with Travis Brown ending up rounding out the top 5 with all this going on. As the drivers start to pull their way towards the pit lane, we'll take a quick break and look at your official results for tonight's action for the SESRA Series from Darlington from Blue Court Apparel 200. Derek Paulson comes away with the checker flag post-race coverage. Coming right up, you're watching LSRTV.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of LSRTV and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Live Sim Racing LLC and iRacing.com Motorsport Simulations. LSRTV would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.
A heck of a finish to the Blue Court Apparel 200 for the SESRA Series here on LSRTV as Derek Paulson ends up making it to the checkered flag in a wild finish. Justin Prince alongside Rachel Whiteford and Gary Weaver, Brett Wheeler in the production truck here for today's post-race coverage. And a heck of a finish. Looking at your results, Paulson comes away over Spencer Preet, who finished off second after a very wild final 15 laps. Michael Cozy Jr. on some of the freshest tires on the racetrack at that point, finished off in third with Jeff Ward in the 4th spot. Travis Brown finished off in 5th, got into a bit of trouble it looks like in the final few moments of the race, finished off 7 seconds back of the lead with Sean Wilder, Kyle Vincent Gilbert, Corey Stevens, Mike Montesi as the final drivers on the lead lap. Brian McRae, who had a significant amount of damage, finishes the final driver a lap down, but comes away with a top 10 and a decent points finish. Inside the top 20, Hunter A. King, Jay Graves Jr., Douglas Johnson, Taylor Butcher Benjamin, along with Mark Arthur and Jason Anderson. Also 7 laps down to the last driver running on the racetrack was Mark Goyne, with DNFs being given to the Alan Kowicki throwback of Steve Ritter, John Johnson and his Jeff Gordon throwback, as well as the Mark Martin throwback of Wally Wilson. Stephen Parks also got in trouble in his Ernie Irvin throwback, in the 4 car, finished off 98 laps down 21st with Tyler Pisano, Matt Ridgway, Zachary Sprun, Jason Taylor rounding out the field for today's race. A heck of a race today, and probably a very happy winner for today's action here. Joining us here in the broadcast booth is Derek Paulson, your race winner for tonight's action here on LSRTV for the Blue Court Apparel 200. Derek, how are you feeling coming away with the checker flag?
Well, I stole that one, but it still feels fantastic.
As that gets to the first question really in terms of that, because what was going through your mind as the contact started happening with Preet, Ward in the 77 of Goyne, when that was starting to happen and they got significant damage and slowing them down? What was going through your mind as you were catching them in the final 10 laps?
Well, I didn't actually see it because I was concentrating on just driving that beast because it was a handful. But I know Ward told me that over the radio that he had been wrecked, and then he was down on power, so I got by him pretty easily. And then, yeah, Preet there, yeah, he must have got significant damage too because he was awfully slow. And I did apologize to him for running him over a little bit, but I saw that win and I really wanted it.
In the end, you ended up leading 5 laps by the time the checker flag came as well. And a heck of a race, too. And a good points day overall. You came into today third in the point standings. With the struggles today for Gilbert and Wilder, this will move you up towards the top of the point standings heading into the next race at Bristol. How are you feeling about into the next race? Rather, for the next race, what's going through your mind as the series shifts over for the Gladiator 200?
Well, typical same thing. I'm fairly patient racer, as you can tell. Again, I didn't have the greatest qualifying. I think I started back in 10th, but I have race speed, it seems like. And, you just got to be patient out there. There was a few times, a couple lap cars, you got kind of iffy when they were coming up passing us when we were on old tires. But, you just patience. And, the last run, I was looking at Cozy to see because he was coming, and I was hoping to get a podium spot. And then we kind of leveled out, and then the other 2 guys, like I said, they got into a wreck. And then yeah, with 2 laps to go, I bounced it off the wall. I was a little too excited there, but yeah, I'm just looking to keep consistency. It's just there's no bonus points or nothing. It's just straight points, and you just want to run good to get the points that you need.
Absolutely. Is there anyone you want to thank before you let you get going?
Yes, I got American Pool Supply and Billy Tungate. If you're out in the Las Vegas area, look up Billy and he'll hook you up with some pool supply paraphernalia. And I want to thank Loud Pedal Motorsports and Jeff Ward, my teammate there. We strategized during the race, and it's always nice to have someone to talk to over the radio. And the SESRA guys over there that run a great league. It's been very fun. This is our 3rd race of this season, and it's just been a blast so far. And I got a shout out to my wife for allowing me to do this on the evenings.
Thank you very much for the time. Congratulations on the victory tonight, Derek.
Yep, thank you.
And that was Derek Paulson coming away with the victory tonight for the Blue Cord Apparel 200. And a very happy driver for sure at this point. Standing by with your 2nd place finisher, and someone probably thinking of what it is, Rachel Whiteford, now with Spencer Preet. Rachel?
Thank you very much, Justin. And we have Spencer Preet with us here tonight. And Spencer, you start off tonight in the, the 1st place. You finished in 2nd, but what a heck of a race you had tonight. You had the best short run speed, it seemed, tonight, whereas Jeff Ward had much better speed in the long run. Towards the end, though, pushing hard to try and keep that speed and match up with Jeff. The wall got a little close a few times. So what's happening?
Yeah, I definitely had it on the short run. Jeff's got this, got it figured out how to save these tires, and we have the tire change rule, which kind of throws it for a loop, and you don't really know. You never know when a caution's going to come out. You never know when, if you want to use a set of tires, and so you got to save your stuff, until the very end. And I'm not really that type of driver. I really kind of just like to push it as hard as I can for as long as I can. And that middle portion of the race, I mean, I burned up that right front so bad. I got to a point I could not drive that thing in 3 and 4 at all. I was having to try all sorts of different crazy lines to get it to turn. And he can just, run consistent and dial it back just a little bit so that he kind of, he's still back there, but he'll fall off a little bit, and then the run goes on and he reels you back in, and then when, you can really tell the difference in the tires. So in that last run, I wanted to make sure, like, once I got around him, to try to back off and not, burn it all up in the beginning, but I wasn't able to pull away when I did that, and then he still was able to just start to reel me back in, like, bit by bit, and he was just that little bit quicker. And I was pushing as hard as I could. He got a really good runoff too, and pretty much cleared me going into 3. So I had a last ditch effort trying to send it into his outside to keep him pinned down there so that he couldn't get a good drive off. And I just bounced off the fence, hooked him with me, and ruined his night. I mean, he had the win at that point. He'd cleared me going into 3, so I feel terrible because he was definitely better on the long run, and with the way that race shaped out, he should have won. So I feel bad because I don't want to win like that for sure, and I don't want to take someone's win away from him doing the same thing, you know.
That's one of the biggest sporting things to remember about racing, of course, is you might be enemies on the track, but when you're off the track, oh, you've got to not get punched in the face by the guy. So it's always good to at least have a sporting attitude to things, and seems like you definitely have that, Spencer. But a busy race, of course, and some big tracks coming up. Is Darlington one of your preferred tracks, or is a get out of the way track?
I'm gonna be 100% honest. This is my least favorite track out of everything. Like I hate this track with a passion. I have not been able to figure it out until this year. Something happened a couple months ago when we started running, all the leagues came here to run their Darlington races, and something clicked with me. I was able to figure it out for the first time in 6 years that I've been doing this. And, you know, I've gotten quicker here, but I still hate it, and I hate having to race here. So I'm glad to get this out of the way for sure.
Seems that way. Well, thanks for joining us. Spencer Preet came home today. It's 2nd place. Justin?
Thank you very much, Rachel. A heck of a run today for Preet, and a heck of a run for the guy who finished off 3rd today. Michael Cozy Jr. joins us at the broadcast booth. Gary Weaver stands by. Gary?
Yeah, after an amazing battle, and my goodness, so much perseverance, and we thought was a tire strategy essentially not going to work out. Somehow, Michael Cozy Jr. has made it work out. And after an amazing battle with the 9 of Jeff Ward in the closing laps, you come away with a P3 finish.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. Well, I don't know. You said it worked out. I didn't win, so I don't think it quite worked out, but it was close. I wish, yeah, I stayed out, and I was like 1 caution away from sitting really good for the rest of the race. I was just banking on, I mean, it was either going to happen or it wasn't. I stayed out on that first caution, or the second caution, one of the two. And, you know, I said, hell with it. You know, if we get a 15, 20 lap run and we get another caution, then I'm either going to have really fresh tires or I'm going to be a set ahead of everybody. I'm racing, so, well, that didn't happen. But, yeah, I just got after it the whole rest of the race. It was, oh, man, it was actually pretty fun. I really like this track. It's a tough track. And, yeah, just... I got a lap down, and then we got an extra caution. I got my lap back, and then I got all the way to the end of the line and drove all the way up to 3rd. Kind of bounced off Jeff a little bit. By that time, it seemed like we were both pretty broken. And, geez, I hit the wall like 8 times coming up through the field. And I finally got up to like 4th, and I didn't have anything left in the car. So, well, you know, anyways, it was pretty fun. I just wish we had another caution or two, another better time caution or something.
Yeah, it's absolutely a very wild but also exciting race, and to think you started 4th and you just made up 1 position throughout all of that. So congratulations to that once again. Heading into though the next round for next week, it's going to be again another after this a little bit of a twist. We head to Bristol next week, so again another similar track to Darlington in terms of running the top side versus the low side. So what are your thoughts heading into Bristol next week?
Oh man, I think I was hitting the wrong button. Yeah, I hate Bristol. I don't like it at all. I'd rather run Darlington again, without changing any tires. Honestly, it's not fun. It's just the one short track I don't like. I'm a big fan of short track racing, except for if it's at Bristol. So I'm probably gonna run not in the lead, and I'll probably put it in the wall a couple times.
So pretty much the same thing you did this week. So maybe you'll come home with a P3 finish once again. But before we let you go, though, is there anyone that you'd love to give a shout out to for your 3rd place finish?
Oh, absolutely. This might take a minute. First off, I gotta thank my primary sponsors, Indie Racing Images. I do some awesome stuff, IndieRacingImages.com. Shout out to those guys. I'd also like to shout out to all my other sponsors. I got one on my contingency sponsor, one down there that I don't know how to pronounce, so apologies. I'm gonna have to get a definition there, or not a definition, well, you know, I'm just gonna have to figure out how you say it. But anyways, I'd like to shout out to him. He's on the contingencies. I want to thank Steve, Cameron Kane, Corey Henry, Ellis Field, Jarrett, Motorsports Games, Matthew Hibbard, What If Racing, Spencer Preet, Tyler Diggin, Vampiric Rage on YouTube, Hunter King, the Nast Dude. We got Kevin Blanche on there, Rick Allen, we got Blake Walker with Chad Fincham on the back. I think that's about it. I got to thank my teammates as well. I always forget my teammates. Geez, I got a lot of them tonight. Some of them I'm not even 100% sure who we were working with, but Mark and Preet and Travis and all the usual guys. And I think Hunter was here tonight. We had a bunch of us, but thanks to all those guys. I think that is it.
Well, we are going to go ahead and let you go. Congratulations once again on an amazing battle and ending up with a P3 finish here at Darlington.
Thank you.
That was Michael Cozy Jr., who, with his 4 freshies, ended up being the same, having the extra set to get the exact same amount of tire wear, basically, for the end with Spencer Preet for that final stretch. But with that, really, what are your final thoughts? Start off with you, Rachel, before we head off to Bristol.
Well, Darlington proved to be exactly what we expected. Very tricky, very difficult, and absolutely unforgiving. Heading to Bristol, though? Yeah, I kind of feel like these guys do. Bristol's not a great track. It's one line. It's basically Daytona in a blender. If someone wrecks, you are in it whether you want to be or not. Yeah, I'll stick with my definition of the Death Blender, aka Bristol.
Anything to add to that point when we go to the Death Blender for the Gladiator, for the next race, rather? Gary.
Oh, right. Sorry. Man, well, that's definitely going to be, again, pretty much like I said, similar to Darlington, but more compact and more than likely worse. So, essentially 2 tracks in one, I guess, going off of Rachel's with Daytona. So it's, I usually call it just in fun, essentially a race, more of a survival race. So it's essentially going to be a last man standing. So good luck to everybody there next week, because that top lane and Bristol being so compact, it's going to be very, very chaotic.
It could very well be very, very, very chaotic for the SESRA series when it shifts over to Bristol. Real quickly, we'd like to thank Blue Cord Apparel. With Blue Cord Apparel for today's race, the Blue Cord Apparel 200. Blue Cord Apparel is a veteran-owned and operated online apparel store with tons of authentic hats and shirts to choose from. Any patriot can find the right fit. Use the promo code THROWBACK18 for 20% off your offer. Today's race was also presented by Joel Real Timing, the official timing software of LSRTV. Whether you can spend your time on the sim behind the wheel or on the pit box or from the spotter stand, JRT is the go-to software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. Get yourself a basic download for free or get the pro version today at joel-real-timing.com. As mentioned, the next race taking place at Bristol Motor Speedway, that will be the Gladiator 200 for 250 laps at Bristol under the lights. Just one set of tires to work with for what will be a wild race on LSRTV. That broadcast, once again, taking place this upcoming next week, October the 25th. That broadcast starts at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. The next time you can see LSRTV for broadcast coverage is for the Major Series for Round 13 at Mount Panorama for the Bathurst 500. Be sure to catch that on October 21st at 4:55 p.m. Eastern Time. But with that, for the rest of our crew today, for Brett Wheeler in the production truck, for Rachel Whiteford, for Gary Weaver, I'm Justin Prince, saying so long and have a great night. You've been watching LSRTV for the Blue Cord Apparel 200. And be sure to vote for what your favorite paint scheme was on LSRTV's website.
The following is a special presentation of iRacing on LSR TV, your home for sim racing.